Monday, the 20th of July 2020 was one of the best days of my life. But it was also a day that I lost my mum. Now, when I say I lost my mum, I don't mean that we went to a National Trust venue and we went and walked around a maze and I couldn't find her. Although she was only about 4.5 foot tall, so that was a really strong possibility. But I actually mean that I really lost her. I've never seen her since, and I probably never will again. Because on Monday, the 20th of July 2020 at about 9:15 p.m, whilst I was at home with my young family, my phone rang, and it was my brother. I said, "Hello, mate." There was silence. And he said, "Pete, Mum's gone. My mum left me. She left all of us. Because that night she lost her battle against MND, motor neurone disease." Now you may be thinking, why on earth would I be saying that the day my mum died was one of the best days of my life? Well, let me help you understand. In May 2018, shortly before my youngest son Marley was born, my mum was partially diagnosed with MND. And I say partially because such is the cruelty of the disease that it's notoriously hard to diagnose. In fact, it takes a really long time to confirm. And apparently, the doctors wait until the patient is experiencing or displaying 3 of the main symptoms before they feel confident enough to say for sure that you have MND. And this can create hope, because maybe she hasn't got MND. Maybe she's not going to die. Maybe it could be something else. But it can also create a huge amount of fear and sadness in everyone that's close to that family member. It wasn't confirmed with my mum till much, much later, and I don't remember when, but I do remember the day we were told it could be MND. 2 years and 3 months later, my mum was gone. My mum, Barbara Janet Williams, at the age of 72. I can no longer go on holiday and share a pasty with her in Cornwall. I can't phone her in the evening and make her laugh. I can't wait for her to fall asleep on the sofa and then make her jump and watch her face as I do it. I can't invite her to stay at mine at Christmas or enjoy one of her incredible homemade birthday cakes. I can no longer help her finish her crosswords. I can no longer trick her into coming down the fastest rapids and water slides on holiday. She never calls me anymore. She doesn't even respond to my texts. In my opinion, she was taken way too soon. So what is MND? It is a disease that attacks the body and the brain, destroying the pathways that carry signals from the brain to the body. Basically, your body shuts down completely, and it is terminal. There is no known cure, and it is extremely aggressive. Life expectancy is around 2 years from the onset of the disease. And when we found out, I knew nothing about MND. And perhaps many of you listening on to this now don't know anything about MND either, and that's okay. But some of you may remember the ice bucket challenge that swept around Facebook a few years ago.
Right, thanks Adam Roberts. This is my ice water bucket challenge. I nominate Olivia Angus, J Rowe, and Adrian Jones. Tutte bene?
That's one way to wake you up.
Yeah, that's good.
Now that was to raise awareness for ALS, which is a form of MND. But who knew when I was having fun all those years ago in my garden, how profoundly affected I would be by that very disease years later. My mum was one of the happiest people I've ever met in my life, and I'm exactly the same. And the reason for that is because she gave me that gift. But she was also special because she was one of these people that was always the same. She was never down, she was never grumpy, she was never anything but happy. My mum and I had a really playful relationship. I'd beat her up, we'd have a laugh, she'd get her own back and beat me up. We were always playing tricks on each other. And every time we met, we hugged each other longer than we hugged anyone else. It was awesome. I had to watch her fade away. I had to watch my mum, one of my favourite people on the entire planet, slowly fade away right before my eyes, and I could do nothing to help her. Nothing. After 6 months, she lost her voice, which was probably the hardest thing she had to experience, and that meant that our relationship had to change. So we couldn't talk anymore because she couldn't talk back. So we had to find new ways of communicating. And it started off with text messages and handwritten notes. But even then, that was taken away from her too, as the dementia and the cognitive decline started to kick in. And we were left with smiles, gentle embraces, but she never once stopped smiling. The last time I saw my mum was the day before she passed away, Sunday, the 19th of July, and it was at my house, and I had to strip her down to her underwear. 72-year-old lady, strip her down to her underwear and change her clothes in my living room because she had spilt her soup all down her front once again. You see, the muscles in her mouth and the muscles in her throat had stopped working. She couldn't talk, she couldn't swallow, she couldn't eat. She was just 5 stone in weight at this point, and clothes hung off her like an oversized t-shirt hangs off a coat hanger. Our roles had completely reversed, but as I undressed her and got her changed into some fresh clothes, she held my hand and she smiled. She was almost incapable of interacting with anyone by this point, apart from me, or at least that's how I felt. So, Sunday, 19th of July, 2020, everyone's at my house. Everyone was busy being themselves in my house on that day. The kids were crashing around, running riot. My dad was watching the football. The rest of the family were talking in the kitchen. And my mum was sitting on my sofa on her own, staring out into the garden, looking absent. So I went and I sat down next to her and I started to talk, but she didn't respond. So I knelt down in front of her and I put my forehead against her forehead and I stared into her eyes. And a couple of seconds later, she saw me and she started staring back, and then her eyes squinted. And I couldn't tell you to this day whether she was smiling or crying. But we gently rubbed noses like a pair of Eskimos. Our relationship had been reduced to a gentle nose rub, and every single emotion hit me, wave after wave after wave. She knew. I knew. She knew that I knew, and she knew that I knew that she knew. Later that afternoon, as my dad's car pulled off my drive, I said goodbye for the very last time, and she looked at me through the passenger window, and somehow she managed to muster up just enough energy to raise her arm, give me a thumbs up, and smile. I never saw her again. She was taken into hospital hours later and she died the next day. But the day after she passed away, my attention started turning to my family. Like, how's everyone coping? How's my brother? How's my dad? What about me? The only thing I was focusing on was the funeral, and I knew I had to do something to try and show everyone how much of a diamond she was. And she was a diamond because she was a gem of a person. Small, sparkly, worth so much to so many people. So I wrote a speech. In fact, I wrote 3 speeches until I was happy with one. And I felt ready and I began to look forward to the big day. But then 2 days before the funeral, I made a change to the start of the speech. The change implemented a rhyme. What? I've just changed the first 2 lines and now they rhyme. They say people come and they say people go, but my mum had a superpower. Didn't you know? What? Could I do that again? Could I make the next 2 lines right? Yes, I could. And though you may be gone and the world may not know, you're still with us, Mum, always, wherever you go. Oh my God, this is turning. I don't know, where's this going? And then I thought I need a really strong hook, a short statement that describes my mum. Everyone got the best version of my mum, a happy little person, ready for fun. And what happened next was one of the best experiences of my life, because an entire 8-page poem poured out of me over the next 24 hours. The poem was the story of my mum, and it focused on her rulebook for life. The funeral came round real quick. I had a fresh haircut, sharp suit. I looked better than I ever have done. And as we arrived at the cemetery and parked the car in a car park, everyone was standing around, dressed in their finest clothes. They all looked amazing. We all looked amazing. And I felt proud. Then my mum arrived. And we all turned and watched as the car carrying my mum arrived. It was a massive moment. People I've known all my life started saying hello and commenting on how sad it was. We were meeting under these circumstances, but they were wrong. And I reminded them all with conviction that this was to be a happy day. A day for us to be thankful for having known my mum. And I was also really looking forward to my poem. I knew I had something good, I could feel it, I just didn't quite know how good. I was scared. I was excited. I was nervous. I needed a wee. The celebrant kicked off the service as we sat down and listened through our face masks. And she told the story of my mum's past, who she worked for, when she got married, etc. But none of it seemed deep enough for me. And now we have some words from the family, she said. I stepped up. I took off my face mask and threw it to the floor in disgust. I had a sip of water. I waited for about 5 seconds, although it seemed like longer. I took a deep breath and I started. They say people come and they say people go, but my mum had a superpower, didn't you know? She had this ability, something unknown, that meant she was always happy and ready to go. And though you may be gone and the world may not know, you're still with us, Mum, always, wherever you go. People like my mum don't come round very often. In fact, I think I've only ever met one person, my mum, that seemed to glide across the water. I'm not talking about her aqua class here, but I probably ought to. I'm talking about the way she turned up to her life. Grabbed it round the neck, rolled her sleeves up and said, right, let's have it. What you got? I'll take you all. There's nobody stopping me getting into that pool. My friends will be there if I do ever fall, but till then, get the drinks in, give the girls a call. Everyone got the best version of my mum. A happy little person, ready for fun. Did you ever see her angry? Did you ever see her down? Did you ever see her throw her toys out the pram? Was she ever mean or selfish or narky or rude? Did she ever get involved in any kind of feud? Did she ever dump any of her issues on you? Think about it now. Did she do that to you? Did she ever give you the cold shoulder or stop coming over with a woman's weekly and raspberry pavlova? Nah, she didn't. She wouldn't, you see. She played on a higher level to you and me. On her level, she was always the winner. Watch out for the musical cake slice at dinner. I enjoyed every single second of that experience, and as I got through verse after verse after verse, I could hear the laughter. The tears, the energy, the love increase at exactly the right time. I finished and I looked up and I felt this rush of energy nearly buckle my knees. I looked at their faces and I knew it was the perfect way to say goodbye. The service ended and we left the marquee, and I left first as I was at the front, and I headed out into the garden. And I turned around and people started running towards me. And when I say running, I do mean running. They ran up to me, desperately trying to speak to me, but they were overcome with emotion. And then they just wanted to touch me and say thank you through their tears. And how did that make me feel? I felt incredible, to be honest, because I'd given my mum the best goodbye ever. I had been able to transform the emotions and energy of everyone at that service from one of the saddest moments in their life to one of the most powerful, enjoyable, and yet emotional experiences. And how did I do that? I did it through the power of a story. Nearly everyone's asked me for a copy of that poem. But what about me now? Well, what have I learned? I've learned that I never really lost my mum. And I never will. She didn't really lose her voice, she just gave it to me. And that storytelling and communication skills are superpowers. That day I lost my mum was one of the best days of my life, because my mum found peace and I found my passion. That passion for storytelling and teaching others has launched my career in an amazing way. I've now got a new storytelling lens to look through, and I can see things differently. Suddenly I can see things clearly and in a completely different way. And I started to look around me and I saw that everyone was struggling their way through presentations. In fact, if I'm honest, 95% of presentations I've ever experienced in nearly 10 years of working at Microsoft have been really poor. And these presentations have been delivered by very bright people. What's going on? The net result is you waste your own time and you're wasting other people's time. And it happens because people don't know how to communicate effectively. This doesn't just happen on a small stage. I've seen this happen time after time, even on a big stage. People don't understand how to communicate, and therefore they are just hoping their ideas land and stick. So I thought to myself, I got so much energy out of the power of storytelling through the death of my mum. What could I do? I found my purpose. So I started practicing and studying. And our experiences shape us. And I'm only just beginning to learn how this stuff works, but as a result of my mum, I now teach 4 internal courses on storytelling and communication skills. I've won several worldwide outstanding instructor awards for my contribution to the business. I've transformed existing content and courses, and I've built brand new storytelling courses from scratch, helping hundreds of employees become better presenters and storytellers and learn the art of storytelling, helping them get their ideas into other people's heads. I most recently helped our latest wave of interns learn the art of storytelling so they can tell their story at their end of year. Their stories about their journeys. They have an opportunity to secure a full-time job at Microsoft, and my course that I created from scratch is helping them do that. This isn't my day job, but I found my passion, my why, and this company encourages me to do that and be myself. Microsoft is one of the biggest tech companies on the planet. That's cool. It's probably the best company on the planet in my opinion, but we do more than just tech. My mum was a superhero. She gave me my voice, but we can all have superpowers. found out that we've been developing special technology that enables people with ALS and MND who have lost their voice and movement to talk. We're enabling them to talk through eye tracking software running on our technology. I'm not part of that project right now, but I'm contributing to a company that is. And there's just been a breakthrough with the research into MND, which hopefully means in the near future people will no longer have to suffer like my mum did. So the final thing I want to leave you with is this. Never, ever underestimate the importance of storytelling and communication skills. You can be the smartest, most technical kid on the block, but if you can't communicate and share your ideas effectively, you will never reach your full potential. Communication in its most simple form is about getting an idea or a thought from our heads into the mind of someone else. That's it. The most effective way to do this is to create an emotional connection with the audience. And the most effective way to do that is to use storytelling.